बोलो यार. I thought you were gonna introduce the thing.
चलो ठीक है. Hi guys, check. 1, 2, 3. Hi guys, this is the reviews. मेरे को डकार आ गया.
This is the Dakar project.
1, 2, 3. Hi guys, this is the Revisit Reviews, and today we're actually going to get into a jam. And to start us off, check. ठीक, 2 minutes. दोबारा से. 1, 2, 3. Hi guys, this is the Revisit Reviews, and today we are talking about practice. Today we're talking about practice, and
Is practice overrated?
that was the question. मैं बोलने वाला था वो. And to start us off, we have a rap artist among us.
What's up? You know what it is. You know the vibes.
Please welcome Lil Bucks to the conversation.
You know the
Lil who?
vibes.
Lil
know what I'm
Bugs.
saying? Shorty.
What? So actually to elaborate about what we are discussing today is practice overrated का मतलब क्या है? इसका मतलब ये है कि क्या आप जो कर रहे हैं या नहीं कर रहे हैं क्या वो overrated? Is practice as we know it, is it overrated? Is that why people don't practice? Or do you think once you reach a level of musicmanship, you don't require practice? And this is a question. This is not a statement. It's
Not a comment.
It's not a comment on the music scene. It's an inquiry. So to start us off, we'll talk to the most
musician.
the youngest rather, the most practiced musician among
not
us.
the most practiced, not more than you.
नहीं ठीक है. So go on, Aditya. Tell us, is practice? Do you think practice is overrated?
Do I think practice is overrated? So first of all, what do you mean by overrated? Do you mean something that may not be absolutely necessary? Is it safe to say
Firstly,
that?
let's define what practice is. Is practice practicing technique? Is it your workout, musical workout, or is it what do you consider practice?
For me, for this conversation, मैं practice को बोलूँगा. Practice playing your instrument, whether it's just playing or whether it's working on a song or working on a technique. I will count all of that as practice.
Sure.
Just playing your instrument for hours on end every day.
ठीक है. And
But as I said, so overrated matlab, would it be safe to say that practice being overrated could also mean that it's not something that's absolutely necessary in order to become a great musician or something like that?
are you asking me that?
Yeah.
or-
Yeah, but that's what
For
the
the
question
sake
means.
of this question.
That's what the question means, I think. I mean,
Traditionally, being a great musician meant you were great at your instrument, not that you can be a good judge at a reality show,
Huh.
or you not because you are great at marketing your music. Traditionally,
do you mean to ask like,
5 minutes ago. I'm just kidding.
No, do you mean to ask that is practice necessary to become a great musician? Is that what you're asking?
My thing is, when I say practice is overrated, I'm saying, do you think practice के बिना भी music हो सकता है?
Huh. So practice ke bina, I feel this is a very personal thing. I can be very wrong but about everything, but it is just an opinion. I feel like, there's been some great music put out by a lot of artists and bands, and I'm not sure some of those musicians were the most practiced, wherein they sat on the kit. I'm saying kit because I'm a drummer, so sat on the kit and practiced a lot or worked on their craft. I don't know, but regardless, they put out some of the best music that's ever been, to have been made.
ठीक है.
But personally, so talking about practicing, not just in the context of putting out great music, but being a great musician, I feel like एक ना point आता है where it becomes more than practice. क्या हुआ?
नहीं, मैं सिर्फ पता कर रहा हूँ कि कितना minutes हो गए.
अच्छा.
Go on.
No, but I feel like एक point आता है where it's some things you need to learn without practicing. Without practicing in the sense कि मतलब practice से हटकर है वो. But वो चीज़ें बहुत important है. To not maybe to contribute to your sound or the way you hold your sticks, or the your feel when you're playing, or just what you're playing. Because so I will take me as an example, and you know, so in the last 2 years, I haven't practiced a lot. I've made sure I've played drums every day, but practice मैंने बीच बीच में काफी time नहीं करी. But I feel like the amount that I have sort of improved in the last 2 years, has been tremendous. Personally, is what I feel, because the way I just approach the instrument is very different now, and I feel some of those things, they just came to me. I don't know how. Maybe it was through watching a lot of drummers play or hearing a lot of music, but I feel like
natural ability बोल रहा था.
हाँ.
You
I feel
born with it?
No,
नहीं.
I feel what he's saying is that he approaches music more maturely now.
I think in a more holistic manner, rather than just picking up your sticks and practicing, and okay, you be a better musician. I mean, I will say practice is a necessity. I will say that in order to be a great musician, not that I am one, but in order to be one, I feel you have to practice every day and regularly. But practice के अलावा भी चीजें हैं जो मतलब I feel equally, if not more important हैं. Like for me, just one example would be playing for the song, or playing with good pocket. Like for the longest, I couldn't figure out how to just get the pocket, meaning pocket for someone who doesn't know, because I didn't know for the longest. Pocket means the distance or the space and time between two notes. And so, pocket can mean a lot of things, in the sense that Nate Smith has a pushy pocket maybe, and then you have someone like a Chris Dave who plays even more ahead, in the terms of his pocket. So that's what pocket means. I feel like मेरी pocket बहुत improve हुई है. Where when I play, it just sounds good. Like I feel like I have a pocket now, as opposed to playing before. And I haven't practiced a lot of that. I've just sat and heard music and heard drummers, and I don't know, like बिना practice के हुआ है, is what I'm saying. But practice करनी चाहिए हमेशा.
ठीक है. That's
Just
your
to
point
sum
of
it
view.
up, that's what I
perfect.
think.
And what does Karan think?
I think for anything, practice is absolutely important, because practicing your instrument takes you to a point where you can improve without practicing it all, which is what he's trying to say.
I think he basically summed up what I was trying to say.
Right, because
So
if he hadn't practiced
अब से
technique,
तेरा point Karan बोलेगा.
क्योंकि मैं उसे 2 मिनट का 20 मिनट में बोल. ठीक है.
if he hadn't practiced technique for however many years he did, if he hadn't gone to his teacher and learned the way he teaches, I don't think he would be able to come to a point where he could listen to something and really understand what's actually happening, what a great musician is doing. Because to understand that also, you need a certain level of awareness and education in something. And if you haven't practiced, if you don't know the little things and the big things, you can't really figure them out unless you're made aware of it, right? And the only way you can get aware of it is bar repeating them, right? Like if you say that, writing a song is not practice, or playing to a song is not, it is a practice. Now we are just categorizing practicing, right? If you play a song over and over again, not because you're trying to learn it, but because you like it, even if you like it, right? If you keep playing it, you're actually practicing that song. And the more you play it, the more you will be able to play that song. The better you will be able to play.
Of course.
Everything that you do in the end is practice. Every day. Even eating food is practice, right? Like getting up, walking is practice. So it has to be like, practice has to be there for everything. I don't think it's overrated at all, because to get anything right, you really have to know what it is. And you can't really know what it is unless you've gone in the depth. So by depth, तो फिर depth तो अभ्यास से ही आएगा ना. अगर आप किसी चीज में घुसोगे, तो घुसने का मतलब तो यही होगा कि आप उसको अच्छे से देख रहे हो. वो अभ्यास से ही आएगा. Thank you so much.
So Varun, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, in the sense that I'd like to add to Karan by saying that vocabulary is very important. I mean, अगर आपको ABCD नहीं पता, you'll not be able to form words. And once you know how to form words, you know how to use them in a sentence. So तो पहले आप ABCD करिए, which is
ABC project.
ABC project.
ABC collective.
Collective.
नहीं, वो ABC में एक कलेक्टिव आ जाता है.
तो फिर वो ABC
Oh
collective
yeah.
It's
Why are they called ABC
They're
collective?
called
They're
just
not-
ABC.
they're not ABC collective.
अच्छा ठीक है, my bad.
ACV.
Yeah, we are on the wrong.
Apple vinegar cider.
ठीक है यार. बैठ जा यार तू.
But I mean, and learning the ABC, I think, is the most important thing about practice. I mean, जो आप कह रहे थे, the basic things, the technique and the like the grassroots thing, मतलब जो अपना instrument पता करना पहले है क्या, वो the vocabulary of the instrument. If you don't know that, it's very difficult to move forward with it. So मेरे हिसाब से तो overrated की बात ही नहीं आती, in the sense that अगर आप practice करोगे तभी आप आगे बढ़ोगे. So there's I don't think there's any other way to do it. Be it practicing an instrument, be it composing. I mean, I know your example because I've spent time with you. That you spend time practicing composing. I mean, coming out with tunes every day, writing something or the other every day over years, and it does not happen in one day. And मतलब अब ये एक तो ये हो गया कि आप हर रोज प्रैक्टिस करो जो आप करना चाहते हो. And the second is, I feel that apart from practicing on your instrument, you also need to practice with musicians. Where Adi's point comes in, that some bands, they make great music, but they are not practiced musicians. The first example that pops into my mind is Nick Mason, for example. I mean, I feel he was not very practiced as a musician, very accomplished technically.
Nick Mason is Pink Floyd's drummer.
Yeah, he is Pink Floyd drummer. But the thing is that you hear the songs and the music will make perfect sense. I mean, the drums will make perfect sense. There's not, and because he has played that music with the band, he's practiced with the band. So I think there's obviously more than one dimension. Like there's a multi-dimensional approach to practice. What he said basically.
Practice is an umbrella. I feel like umbrella term.
But spending.
Wow.
But spending time with your instrument is of utmost importance, I feel. I mean, and that's why I don't think practice कभी बंद हो सकती है उस सेंस में.
ठीक है भैया, प्रैक्टिस को छतरी बोल दिया भाई ने.
नहीं
नहीं बिल्कुल है.
तो फिर हंसो मत.
उसके साथ वो कह रहा खाना भी प्रैक्टिस है, चलना भी प्रैक्टिस है.
वो बड़ा सही पॉइंट था. मैं चल ही नहीं पाता सही से. ये प्रैक्टिस मुझे करनी पड़ेगी बहुत.
करो ना बहुत.
मैंने खाने की बहुत प्रैक्टिस की है.
Eating till failure.
बट आपको चलने की प्रैक्टिस करनी पड़ेगी. आप काफी टूटते हो इधर उधर.
मेरा पैर मुड़ जाता है.
चलते. But practice is not overrated at all.
But I feel like
practice is overrated.
Before we can even say, that practice is overrated or something like that, I think पहली बात तो यार उतनी प्रैक्टिस करनी पड़ेगी. मतलब
तो तूने छूटते बोल दिया, मेरे को तो नेचुरली आ गई चीजें.
मैंने कब बोला नेचुरली आ गई चीजें?
अभी तो तूने बोला प्रैक्टिस.
मैंने पॉकेट सुना, पॉकेट आ गया.
प्रैक्टिस नहीं की बट आ गई. तूने
यार
बोला
अब आई है 2 साल.
अब आई अब मैं क्या करूं? आई एम ग्रेट.
नो ग्रेट नहीं.
बट तूने अपने इंस्ट्रूमेंट का ABC सीखा है अच्छे से.
मनोज सर ने सिखाया है मेरे को.
हाँ, तूने सीखा भी है मतलब.
सीखा भी है.
वो बोलते हैं ना, there is no bad student.
What?
But
I think it's the other way around.
No, there is no bad.
There is no bad.
There is only a bad teacher.
तो मतलब प्रैक्टिस के बिना म्यूजिक हो सकता है if you find the right people. अकेले तो मतलब मेरे हिसाब से अकेले भी हो सकता है. बट अच्छा कितना है, बट दैट्स सब्जेक्टिव थिंग.
बट मुझे लग रहा है हम जब भी प्रैक्टिस की बात कर रहे हैं, हम बार बार इस पॉइंट पे जा रहे हैं कि प्रैक्टिस मतलब टेक्निकल प्रैक्टिस. हाउ गुड यू आर एट योर इंस्ट्रूमेंट. बिकॉज प्रैक्टिस तो निक मेसन भी कर ही रहा है ना. पिंक फ्लॉयड के साथ बजा तो रहा है 150, 400, 500 बार गाने. दैट इज आल्सो प्रैक्टिस.
But he might not
No,
be
he's
technically
not.
the best.
He's not saying. I'll see you at the gig. I can't come for the jam. And he's coming to the gig.
That's what I
sucking.
said. That's exactly what I said. You need to play with the band. You need to spend time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think practice is overrated when your life ka context is different, and practice is contextual, much like everything else in life. For example, if your job is Nick Mason's job, he doesn't have to learn, Afro-Cuban.
Yeah.
For example, that's the farthest
Fair
that I
enough.
could think of. And his context was, मेरी ये practice है. I have to be disciplined enough to support David Gilmour. So that becomes your practice. As you rightly said, कि everything is practice. And वही है, I think practice is contextual at the end of the day. I feel sometimes you need to know the basics. In the current situation, in the current world, I think practice may be overrated. I mean, it's not for me, but I'm talking about how everyone else is looking at it. जैसा मुझे समझ आता है.
How everyone else is looking at it, or how the world is running right now.
No. Which is if everyone will look at something, that's how the world will run.
No, look at practice is what I mean.
वही मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि maybe that's how they're looking at practice. Traditionally, practice meant you need to practice your instrument. Now, practice means you need to meet people skills, practicing that. So,
I mean, it's not just the instrument and the music, but things related around that also.
the world,
Okay.
meeting the world has become a practice
Okay,
now.
I get it.
Whom to approach, what to say, learning MBA wala point of view.
Basically, musicians have to be in the music business also now. They have to handle it.
आप कह रहे हो घर पे बैठे
By
अगर
the way,
बंदा बजाते रहे.
just to add to your point, musicians don't have to be, they are in the music business now. They've always been in the music business. It just so happens that now you have to run your ship.
Yeah, that's what I meant,
Earlier, the record label used to handle all of
वही
this.
पूछने
Yeah.
वाला था मैं.
So now the current musician,
Has
that
to
is-
run his business.
he has to run everything. He has to run his family life. That is why they may not be practicing the traditional chops. That is why there is a lack of musical chops, or just the traditional musical values have degraded now, which is what I
Agreed.
feel. That's
No.
what I hear in music as well.
Yeah.
But do you think it's because they don't think it's that important anymore, or do you think it's because they don't have enough time?
Yeah, of course, all of this is also there. I feel that the world has all, of course, it's always given us signals as to where I'm headed. Like for example, if we were practicing classical music in 60s, people would be like, "mat kar yaar, Hendrix kar raha hai na, Hendrix jaisa ban." So then every guitar player became like Hendrix. Even the rock guitar players, you can see that Jim Hall is not an influence for Scott Henderson, even though he might just be. But the clearest influence that I can hear in Scott Henderson's playing, or Mike Stern's playing, is not Jim Hall. It's Jimi Hendrix. You know what I mean? So I'm saying now the world context is, bro, tu DJ banja. Yeah, and of course there exists a world where DJ banna is not important. But the world is with Ritviz. The world is not with myself or the band, or So I'm saying, if you've chosen to do music as a traditional form of art, wherein usme jazz bhi aa jata, usme funk bhi aa, anything that's not hip right now becomes traditional, is what I'm saying. For me, that's how I'm defining traditional right now. If you are doing music with that intent, practice is the most important thing. But if you are following the trends, which a lot of musicians do, which they can absolutely, then you may not have to practice your music traditionally. Your practice has to become following the trend. So us lihaz se, traditional practice is overrated for the world right now, which is absolutely fine. But I'm just telling you that
An example of this would be, I mean, what you're saying is that reels, which are happening today.
Yes.
I mean, music is being created for reels, and that's how composing has become a thing. Like basically, आप
now,
1 मिनट का ही सोच रहे हो. अब हाँ, अभी की बात कर रहा हूँ.
but there is of course, and just to add to your point, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that this is right. I'm saying, dekho, if someone wants to do that, that means they want to be famous right now. They don't want to be famous when they're 50. Traditional practice se, you will be famous when you are good. Traditional practice is like investing in that sense. भाई रिटायरमेंट के वक्त तेरे को 2 करोड़ रुपया, 5 करोड़ रुपया, 10 करोड़ रुपया मिलेगा. हाँ, सो वो आई थिंक लोग करना नहीं चाहते. पीपल वांट टू ट्रेड. सो रील इज लाइक ट्रेडिंग.
True.
एंड व्हिच इज फाइन.
कि उसी टाइम फेमस हो जाओ, उसी टाइम पैसे आ जाए.
Which, हाँ, I think that's what, but that also helps a lot of people, na? But to continue your point.
No, it's just this, that basically, see, I don't know if it's evolution in a sense, or we have gone back. That's the biggest question that I like when you made your point. That's what I was thinking. That has music evolved like this, or are we going back, or is this a very subjective thing? मतलब,
Are you asking me that?
yeah, I'm asking you. I mean, basically, जो आपने बोला था,
Hmm.
in the sense that music was something else back then, it is this now. Is it a positive change, or do you think, as Abhay Sharma, it's a negative? I mean,
यार I think
Have we gone back?
there are various ways of, I think एक ना जैसे there's a thought called the paradox of choice. ये एक क्या बैरी श्वार्ट्स करके एक बंदा है, वो बोलता है कि now in the modern world because we have more choice we actually become more anxious about them, whereas back in the day there was less choice. So वो ऐसे बताता है कि जैसे मैं जीन्स लेने गया, वो बोलता है कि मैं एक शॉप में घुसता था बैक इन द 60s 70s 80s, वो जो भी जीन्स मिल रही है उस वक्त, जो भी मिल रही है तो मैं पहन लेता था. सो इफ द जीन्स वाज बैड आई कुड ब्लेम द वर्ल्ड फॉर दैट. बट नाउ व्हेन आई गो टू बाय अ जीन्स पीपल आर लाइक अच्छा ये ले लो, स्लिम फिट ले लो, ये फिट ले लो, वो फिट ले लो. नाउ द ओनस इज अपॉन माई सेल्फ. तूने सही जीन्स नहीं चूज की, वर्ल्ड तो तेरे को ऑफर कर रहा है. So what his point is, because of so many choices we've become anxious about them because we're always feeling यार मैं miss out कर रहा हूँ यार, FOMO हो रहा है मेरे को.
Actually, that is very true. I mean, back in the day, sorry to interrupt you, but
please.
back in the day, I mean, you also didn't have, I wouldn't say distractions, but you didn't have a lot of things to do. जो आप कह रहे हो, पहले ऑप्शन इतनी सारी जीन्स थी नहीं. आप उठ रहे हो, आपके पास, अब मैं ट्रेडिशनल इंडियन म्यूजिक की बात कर रहा हूँ, क्लासिकल म्यूजिक की बात कर रहा हूँ. आप उठ रहे हो, आपको बोला जा रहा है प्रैक्टिस करो. अब वो सुबह 4 से 7 6 8 घंटे मतलब वो प्रैक्टिस ही कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि और कुछ करने को नहीं है. स्कूलिंग वॉज नॉट इम्पॉर्टेंट, एजुकेशन वॉज नॉट दैट इम्पॉर्टेंट. Practice was for them because they had chosen to do music, and obviously if you spend more time with something you will be better at it. And that's how practice was looked at. But right now, like in the last podcast we talk about education, you talk about education. Ab education has taken the forefront. I mean, आप जितनी भी practice करो, जितना music करो, education is what defines a lot of people. I mean, I don't agree with that personally, but education को इतना time जा रहा है आपका, एंड उसके बाद फिर पैसा आ जाता है, फिर ये आ जाता है, फिर आप खेल भी रहे हो, आपको ये भी करना है, आपको वर्कआउट भी करना है. आई डोंट थिंक दैट वाज द थिंग बैक लाइक 40 years back. And that's why traditional music had a different sound also, and we don't have that now.
That's why I say that if you're a traditional musician, if and all of us in that regards are अगर तू बेस बजा रहा है, मैं सैक्सोफोन बजा रहा हूँ, आपका इंस्ट्रूमेंट ऑफ कोर्स 60 साल 70 साल 80 साल पहले ही आया है, बट नाउ इट्स ट्रेडिशनल. Because you're literally using your hands to play that shit. Okay? That means if you're not using computers, that shit for me is traditional. And then with that thing in mind, of course we ought to practice. Of course we ought to find a way which is efficient, which is nice, जिसमें हाथ भी दर्द नहीं हो रहा क्योंकि occupational hazard हो जाता है, या which is the most efficient way of playing your instrument. उस केस में कितना ज़रूरी है वो, अब ऑफ कोर्स अगर आपको जाको बनना है तो आपको पागल होना पड़ेगा म्यूज़िक को लेकर, लाइफ को लेकर नहीं, म्यूज़िक को लेकर. और अगर आपको निक मेसन बनना है तो मे बी यू डोंट नीड दैट काइंड ऑफ मैडनेस, यू नीड द प्रैक्टिसेस टू बी डिसिप्लिन. बिकॉज आई हैव सीन अ लॉट ऑफ ड्रमर्स फेल एट इवन दैट बिकॉज समटाइम्स यू आर सो प्रैक्टिस्ड दैट discipline is not part of your regime, and that is also, so I feel context को समझना भी एक practice है उस लिहाज से.
And in my opinion, Nick Mason is a very accomplished musician. I mean,
he's an
nothing doubting that. Exactly, he's one of the greatest we've had.
नहीं,
for sure.
But again, greatest in what sense? देखो, when you say greatest, he is the greatest because Pink Floyd is the greatest. Pink Floyd is the greatest. This psychedelic rock band.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you made great music, I think you're one of the greats.
Yes,
that's what I believe.
Absolutely. When I say one greatest means one of the greats.
I know.
सिर्फ एक ही बंदा है.
गोट वाला सीन नहीं है. Exactly like in tennis.
Yeah.
There's no one goat.
For me, it's Jimmy Connors. No, it's Roger Federer, and that's very.
For me, it's Roger Federer too.
Federer. All the Rogers and all the Federers.
Again, Nadal is one of the greatest for sure.
The Russian guy, Kovacic something.
Kovacic तो is a footballer. तू जोकोविच की बात कर रहा है.
और वो सर्बियन
सर्बिया ट्रेडिशनली रशियन. तो उसकी प्रैक्टिस वो है टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट आई एम
रशियन
पोस्ट
सोवियत
रशियन.
Karan was going to say something, guys.
But yeah,
भूल गया
Karan Wadhwa.
we were talking about listening to music and all that. Don't you also feel that listening to music also a practice? Listening to music like a musician or a musician should, maybe. Is there a thing like that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, absolutely.
There is recreational playlist and there is educational
playlist. Yeah.
No. No, not like the way you listen to anything, whether it's recreational or मतलब obviously as a musician you develop a ear after a point that you start listening to music a certain way anyway, because I don't think a layman would sit and be like, oh, have you heard that, did you listen to that chord or did you listen to that bass line or whatever, but we listen to music like that. But do you think
यार लेकिन मैं एक
that's
बात
also
बताऊं,
a practice?
एक मिनट
उसका पॉइंट तो सुन
ले यार.
I mean, do you think that's also a practice, like getting so aware that you know what's happening in the music and you really understand it?
Now go.
but you know, normal people who don't do music have come up to me नहीं,
Happier people.
happier, sorted, smart people, everything better than us. So normal people who don't do music, I've heard them say stuff like, oh man, that beat is so sick, or man, that bass line is so killer, or like, oh, they also notice.
No, but
I'm sure they
according to
notice.
like for that, rhythm is the first thing you get.
Yeah.
The first thing you listen there.
It's
the
No
most-
matter what, brother, rhythm's gonna get you.
It's the easiest thing to connect to. I mean,
But even
when you look at Burj Khalifa, you're like, man, that's a big building. But when an engineer looks at it, he's like, oh, or an architect. My bad. But architect and engineer
but
are
the
in
same-
cahoots.
Architect.
I love the word cahoot so much, man.
ठीक है, architect. When an architect looks
do you
looks
think
at it,
that's a very conscious decision as a musician
To listen to music?
listen to music in that way?
If it's a if it's a conscious decision, then it is a practice, no?
I think even if it's not like the most conscious decision, it becomes part of your practice, na?
Yeah.
Even
I mean,
if
if
it's
you're
not.
pursuing music, then whatever you listen to, एक point के बाद, अब Aditya, you can't go back to being a layman and listening to music and not think about it.
yeah.
When you listen to it, you'll immediately, any musician will immediately analyze it कि
But
क्या
तेरा
हो रहा है,
point
क्या
क्या था,
होने
करण?
वाला है.
यही पूछना चाह रहा था कि मैं क्या म्यूजिक सुनना भी एक प्रैक्टिस है, क्योंकि
course,
म्यूजिक
बहुत ज्यादा.
जनरली अगर आप देखो एज अ बिगर पिक्चर, इट्स इन द बैकग्राउंड. ज्यादातर लोगों के लिए म्यूजिक बैकग्राउंड में होता है लाइफ में. तो म्यूजिक तो हम पूरा दिन भी सुन सकते हैं, लाइक आई कैन म्यूजिक कैन बी प्लेइंग ऑन माय स्पीकर एंड द होल डे इट कैन बी गोइंग ऑन, बट देयर हैज टू बी सम एक्टिव लिसनिंग टू इट आल्सो, ना?
Yes.
That is practice.
That is practice,
for
right?
sure. And I think
Yeah.
it's very important
That's it,
also. It is actually underrated, I would say. I mean,
Just
बहुत
listening
लोग
to music.
हाँ listening and then analyzing. A lot of people don't do that. At the educational listening, what you're talking about, a lot of people don't do that. And वो पता चल जाता है.
Active listening तो has to be a part of your life. मतलब if you're it's like, यार मुझे एक बात बताओ, अब अगर तुमने डॉक्टरी पढ़नी है तो तुम डॉक्टर्स के आसपास होते हो ना, तुम मतलब म्यूजिशियन के साथ थोड़ा हैंग आउट करोगे भाई. ऑफ कोर्स यू कैन हैंग आउट विद देम आफ्टर 7 o'clock एंड हैव अ फ्यू ड्रिंक्स, बट पूरा दिन तो तुम अपने सीनियर के साथ ही थे ना. दैट्स व्हाई इन इवन डॉक्टरी में आपको एक सीनियर डॉक्टर को असिस्ट करना पड़ता है फॉर द लॉन्गेस्ट, व्हिच इज देयर एक्टिव लिसनिंग सेशन वहीं हो रहा है. तो म्यूजिशियंस को भी, अगेन, इफ यू आर अ ट्रेडिशनल म्यूजिशियन, समवन हु प्लेज एन इंस्ट्रूमेंट, यू आर अ ट्रेडिशनल म्यूजिशियन, then you have to, even otherwise
you can't start from एकदम से उठ के थोड़ा ना आ जाएगा म्यूजिक. I mean, you have to listen, you have to go somewhere.
but this is where I have a point just to add कि काफी लोग ना, they want to do something that's never been done before. उस केस में then they might not be active listeners. They're almost
But
like
ऐसा
this.
कब हुआ है कि कुछ नया आया है उनसे?
नहीं,
Has it ever been the case? That's what.
bro, so
No, seriously.
in their
yeah.
ignorance, again, ignorance is bliss. And अगर आपके पास enough पैसे हैं और enough पैसे छोड़, अगर आप ऐसी कंट्री में रहते हो, why do so many European musicians come and वो अपना रिकॉर्डर लेके, hey man, sing me something that's poor or some other shit,
Sing me something that's poor.
you know, like why do they go to these, ये मंदिर के बाहर जो गरीब बच्चे हैं उससे कुछ चीज लगा ली और फिर बोल दिया चैंट्स ऑफ द पुअर किड करके गाना निकाल दिया. ठीक है, तू समझ रहा है,
blonde woman.
हाँ, कि हीरा काका पू 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 कुछ भी नाम रख दिया अपना, and this European person comes and they
हीरा काका पू पू.
चार पू हैं.
He
पू,
said
पू, पू,
हीरा
पू.
काका पू 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 पू
poo poo poo.
पू पू पू.
So I'm saying that is again उनके लिए यही चीज है कि हमको नया करना. That's why they are also not active listeners. I've heard so many times, like अभी एक पीछे मैंने आर्टिस्ट के लिए बजाया भी था, वो शायद म्यूजिक सुनता या सुनती नहीं है, तो उसने सुनते नहीं है.
दे them.
हाँ, तो उन्होंने क्या लिख दिया कि सब कुछ में वो क्रेडिट दे रहे थे, मेरे को लिख दिया ट्रम्पेट अभय शर्मा.
ओहो क्या बात कर रहे हो यार.
जबकि
ये तो नया है कुछ.
when you tag me on Instagram,
Sax.abhay.
it is trumpet by sax.abhay. Now you know why I didn't
But
question.
that can be true.
Ignorance is bliss.
Is a different thing.
Why I didn't question that person is because मुझे लगा कि maybe she hired me as a trumpet player. अब वो पैसे वापस ना मांग ले.
He said she.
या तो maybe अब ये एक ये पॉइंट हो सकता है, या अब मैं उसको अगर करेक्ट करूं तो फिर वो बुरा मान जाए. तो मैंने कहा पेमेंट आ गई है, मैं आज से ट्रम्पेट प्लेयर हूं उनके लिए.
बस ठीक है.
ठीक है ना. तो बट
If it makes money, it makes sense.
ठीक है. So that's where we ended. Her topic
Again,
money.
paisa.
But yes, practice is overrated contextually is where I would like to end this conversation. If you're a traditional musician, then practice is the basic level that you can actually aspire to be at. And once you've done that, then of course you can obviously forget about it and get married. I'm just
Practice is very
That's
important.
also a practice.
Practice is.
I mean,
very
if you're क्या Hugh Hefner, then you're practiced marriage perfect.
क्या खेला है आपने?
हाँ.
इस बॉय ने क्या खेला है? But no, practice is very important. I don't think it's overrated.
Practice is totally important, guys.
The guy is like.
तू ऐसा लग रहा है ना ऐसे बोलता हुआ. तू थोड़ा अच्छा ठीक है. I know you're pandering to your audience. If people are
pandering to your audience.
ठीक है.
You have friends, bro. That's what he's trying to say.
I wish.
Karan?
I think practice is very important. I do it or don't, that's a different thing. Please don't look at me like
I mean, I do get your point. But the thing is that.
Even speaking is a practice.
To be a traditionally good musician,
Definitely.
No. But what he's saying,
Practice is
like the
important.
overrated part of it, I'll say that what you say is completely makes sense. But as Varun Rajasekharan, I don't think it's going to be turned out into.
Then
something
don't be
good.
Varun.
Be Rajasekharan.
Fuck it.
I have to be. I have to own it.
that's the
बोल
name
रहा
given to you by your parents.
But ठीक है. तू क्या बोल रहा था?
Yeah, leave it.
बट यही कह रहा था मैं कि मेरे हिसाब से फिर वो अच्छा म्यूजिक नहीं जाएगा. मतलब
Close.
वो ट्रेडिशनल हो या ना हो. आई मीन सेइंग.
तू बोल रहा है कि प्रैक्टिस नहीं करो.
हाँ, तो मतलब जैसे आप कह रहे हो पीपल स्किल्स भी और भी चीजें हैं विच इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट राइट नाउ. बट प्रैक्टिस इज स्टिल वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. आई डोंट थिंक इट इज ओवररेटेड बिकॉज इफ यू डोंट प्रैक्टिस you won't be able to achieve even if it's not something traditional. That's what
I'm not saying it's overrated. I'm just saying for me it's the most process in life is the most important thing. But I understand if practice is overrated for you because I want money from you eventually. So अगर मैं तेरे को बुरा बोल दूंगा तो मेरे गिग पे नहीं आएगा ना. तो मैं तो सिर्फ I am just trying to get people to my gig.
To earn money and पैसा ही सबसे
So
important.
what do you actually think?
What do I actually think?
अगले podcast में.
Let's switch off the podcast and then we discuss. But yes, what I actually believe is practice is the most important thing. It's the first thing you should be doing as a musician.
Routine.
And it can be practice. Ideally, should mean practicing your instrument or practicing your craft, which can be songwriting, which can be
anything. If
Yeah.
you're
Producing
if there's a
even.
craft you're related to, you have to practice.
Yes.
If you want to be good at it.
or maybe going to the gym also can be your craft if you're a
Yeah.
musician, of course. But that's my final
Wow.
word. Well, Karan, I think we have already heard from Aditya. So what do you have to say, man?
I mean, I agree with the fact that practice is the most important thing. If you're trying to get better at anything, if it's craft, then yeah, definitely you have to practice your craft over and over again to get better at it. If you,
I don't know why. This guy.
Guys, yeah.
looking at me.
बंद कर दे. अरे बंद कर दे. अरे बंद कर दे भाई.
Actually,
अरे भाई बंद कर दे.
We're done. That's what.
अरे बंद कर दे.
Thank you.